Okay, good evening. Tonight we'll start first with the homage to Manjushri, which is in the blue book on page 12 if you have it. Homage to my guru and protector Manjushri, who holds to his heart a scriptural text symbolic of his seeing all things as they are, whose intelligence shines forth like the sun, unclouded by the two obscurations, who teaches in 60 ways with the loving compassion of a parent for his only child, all wanderers caught in the prison of samsara, confused in the darkness of their ignorance, overwhelmed by their suffering. You whose dragon thunder-like proclamation of Dharma arouses us from the stupor of our delusions and frees us from the iron chains of our karma, who wields the sword of wisdom, hewing down suffering wherever its sprouts appear, clearing away the darkness of ignorance. You whose princely body is adorned with the 112 marks of a Buddha, who has completed the stages achieving the highest perfection of a bodhisattva, who has been pure from the beginning, I bow down to you, O Manjushri. Om Rapasanadi, 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 Om. Om Rapasanadi. With the brilliance of your wisdom, O compassionate one, illuminate the darkness enclosing my mind. Awaken my intelligence and wisdom so that I may gain insight into the Buddha's words and the texts that explain them. So just by way of motivation, I was thinking about when Geshe Dadro was here, first thing he said to me when somehow the topic of this class came up, and the first thing he said was, I learned so much, and I'm so grateful to the people I studied with, because that's how I learned everything I learned. And so I really saw how grateful he was and appreciative he was, and I feel that that's what we can offer to each other as we delve into these topics and try to develop minds that are very wise and can discriminate and try to see why these topics matter and how they relate to the path. And may this be a part of our being able to have really clear thinking, wisdom, and the compassion of Manjushri. May we become Buddhas like Manjushri very quickly. So last week, Venerable Seppo went through the pages on mutually exclusive, and she got right up to the exercise 4.5, which is on page 59 in the book. And I'm going to just review a little bit before we just jump right into that exercise. We'll briefly review a little bit from that that section on mutually exclusive. So when you think something is mutually exclusive, the answer that you give is the two, P and Q, are mutually exclusive. And then I'm just reviewing parts from that chapter. So two phenomena that are mutually exclusive, they have two requirements. They have to be different, which is true for all of the comparisons we do. And then the other is that whatever is a P is necessarily not a Q. Whatever is a Q is necessarily not a P. So they're just, they're so the first thing, that they're different, that right there implies that they're things that exist, because that's how they define the language here. You can't, something that's non-existent doesn't have any qualities, so it's not part of the mix there. And the other part that's quite important is that they can't be exactly the same in name and meaning. So this second thing, that they're not exactly the same in name and meaning, means that there's nothing that is both a P and a Q. So like on the chart over there is two circles that aren't touching at all. The things that are in one circle you wouldn't find in the other circle. It's that simple. But the words are what we're trying to get down here, because the idea is, I think, quite easy, but sometimes I find some of these words hard. So then they say, for such phenomena, their boundaries of pervasion do not meet at all. The two range over completely different groups of phenomena. So their boundaries of pervasion are different. What they range over is different. There's no pervasion between the two. There's no overlapping. There's no common locus. That's an important word, and that comes up in the philosophical studies a lot. Common locus in this book, he says, in this section on mutually exclusive, is a locus or a basis or an existence that demonstrates two qualities. So they have something in common. Everything that exists is a common locus of some sort. You could say, like, this table is a common locus of, is both an existent and it's also a material phenomena. But some qualities of things that exist are never seen together, so they're mutually exclusive. So they have nothing in common in that regard. So they're in the two separate circles there. And that's how we show that when we make the diagram. Okay, so there's no common locus. So an example of something that would be, of two phenomena that are mutually exclusive is permanent phenomena, which the definition of a permanent phenomena is defined as a common locus of a phenomena and the non-momentary. So right there they're using these words. I took these words from the previous debate book. I didn't cross-reference all of them. So we might find slightly different wording, but the meaning would be the same. So things that are permanent phenomena are both a phenomena and they're non-momentary. They have to say phenomena because non-existents are also non-momentary, you could say. So they have to put that in there to help know that it's an existent. And then the other thing that's, okay, so permanent phenomena are mutually exclusive with functioning things, which Jeffrey sometimes calls effective things. And he changed that because the word function is in the definition, and that doesn't work very well for English speakers, but it seems to work fine for Tibetans. So a thing is defined as that which is able to perform a function. That's the definition of a thing or a functioning thing in this language. So when you just are talking casually and you say the word thing, years ago Venerable corrected me, trying to make me aware that you can't just, thing just doesn't refer to any old thing. It does when you're just speaking loosely, but in this language, thing is actually an impermanent phenomena. You can't really use that word in this technical language to refer to a permanent phenomena. So functioning things is just another way of saying impermanent phenomena. And impermanent phenomena are characterized by being momentary. And why is that? Why are they momentary? Because they're produced, they abide, they disintegrate, they cease moment by moment, as opposed to permanent phenomena which don't change moment by moment. So that's, big difference that's quite easy to understand. So there, these two, permanent phenomena and impermanent phenomena, or permanent phenomena and functioning things, they're totally separate phenomena. They'd be those two circles. Nothing, you couldn't find anything that is the same, right? No common locus. Yeah, that's pretty easy to understand. So there are countless examples of things that are mutually exclusive phenomena. Almost any two things you observe are mutually exclusive, like tables and chairs. Actually, two trees are mutually exclusive. One time I was thinking about this when we were studying this some years ago, about seeing a line of water bowls. They're mutually exclusive. There's not one the same as the other. Another example would be a white horse and a black horse. And that's where our mind gets a little funny, because they're the same type of phenomena. They're both horses. But if you're comparing white horse to black horse, they're diverse. You're never going to find one that is both. So they are mutually exclusive. So now we're on exercise 4.5. That was our review. Are there any questions about that? Did people get it? Does it make sense? Okay, good. Yeah.
Would it be also the case that this brown horse and that brown horse are also mutually
Just like two
exclusive?
trees, that brown tree and this brown tree, yeah. If you're comparing the two, there's no one thing that is both. So the narrative starts with how do the two compare? How do the two P and Q compare, right? So everybody open to their book if you need the narrative. So who are our first volunteers? Grab a mic. And who are you going to be debating with about your right hand and left hand? Okay, Karen, pass the mic. Okay, so you've got the narrative. Let's make it easy on ourselves. Who would like to go first? Okay, you go first.
How do the two, your left and your right hand, compare?
The two, a left hand and a right hand, are mutually exclusive.
It follows that your right and your left hand are not mutually exclusive. Wouldn't that mean that there is nothing that is both a left and a right hand?
Right.
Why do you say that there is nothing that is both a left and a right hand?
Because no left hand is a right hand, and no right hand is a left hand. So there could not be anything that is both a right hand, a left hand, and a right hand.
Okay, let's do a couple more and then we'll come back to the footnote because just to make it easy. Okay, so let's do apples and oranges. Okay, you guys, this is the easy one. Matt, Toji, why don't you two? Oh, okay, we got two. Go ahead.
How do the two apples and oranges compare?
The two, apple and oranges, are mutually exclusive.
It follows that apples and oranges are not mutually exclusive. Wouldn't that mean there is nothing that is both an apple and an orange?
Right.
Why do you say there is nothing that is both an apple and an orange?
Because no apple is an orange, and no orange is an apple. Therefore, there couldn't be anything that's both.
Okay. Now, so that's a pretty easy narrative, and those are pretty easy examples. Matter and consciousness is the next one, and we have our handy-dandy chart up there. So we know that the selfless, let's quick review from last week, the selfless is kind of like the basis of everything. Everything in this system, in Prasangika you would say everything lacks inherent existence, or in the Satantrika system, you would say everything lacks a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. So anyway, you have selfless, and then it breaks into existence and non-existence. And the existence break down into impermanent phenomena, which we've just talked about. And then the impermanent phenomena break into what we've often called form, but in this book they call matter, and they're interchangeable. Consciousness and abstract composites, which often is called non-associated compositional factors. So here we have to compare matter, which is the same as form, and consciousness. And so we can see quite easily they're ranging over different things. There's nothing that's both, right? Does everybody get that? It's easy for apples and oranges, but we have to be clear about these other ones. Okay, so we'll come back to that a little bit later, but let's go back to the one about the left hand and the right hand, because the footnote's interesting. This is one of these debate things that you have to get used to. It says, is your left hand and your right hand? So that's asking you this, is your left hand and your right hand combined? Well, let's read the rest. If it is, then it would seem that your right hand is neither your left hand nor your right hand. Because if it is, then it would seem that your right hand is neither your left hand nor your right hand, because your left hand is your left hand and your right hand. or if your left hand and your right hand, or your left hand and your right hand, wouldn't it be the case that your left hand is your left hand and your right hand, and also your right hand is your left hand and your right hand, which would mean you now have 4 hands. That would make work a lot easier. Okay, so let's give the example that they usually use for this. For 2 impermanent phenomena, these are subjects that exist. Your left hand and your right hand exist. A pot and a pillar exist. So the example they usually use, this is from the debate book. These are subjects, a pot and a pillar, which are impermanent phenomena, but nothing is them. This is an example of 2 existent phenomena, but nothing is them. So the example is the 2, a pillar and a pot, which is easier. The left hand and the right hand is too much of a tongue twister for me. So here's how it's talked about. For instance, the 2, a pillar and a pot, exist as impermanent phenomena, but there's no one thing or group of things which is the 2. There's no one thing that is a pillar and a pot. If you have a pot or you have a pillar, but there's no one thing that is a pillar and a pot. So that's an example. A pillar and a pot are mutually exclusive. There's nothing that's both of them. Are you on to the next one? Matt and Jen? Yeah. So everybody get that? Because this comes up in these debate things. There's all these funny things that they bring up, and this is one of them, but I find it left hand and right hand to be a tongue twister. So I like the pot and the pillar better because I can visualize it better. Does everybody follow it? You can't find anything that is the 2. That's what it is. Okay, and then they have Matt and Jen. If Matt and Jen were transgender and became Jen, if Matt were transgender and became Jen, or if Jen were transgender and became Matt, there would still not be a common locus of Matt and Jen, because at no point would the person be both Matt and Jen. The mother might say something like, "She will always be my Jen." But meanwhile, old Jen, new Matt, is going around introducing himself as Matt and asking old friends to call him Matt now. So this author was definitely teaching in the modern times. You don't find that in the debate textbooks. Okay, so does everybody get that? This, I think, does anyone have any questions about these mutually exclusive things? That's good because we don't have a clock. I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, since you're now talking about your left hand being both the left and the right hand,
Yeah.
so when they're talking about the existence of the I,
The eye?
no,
This
the
eye or the eye like a person?
the person, yes.
Yeah.
In the reasoning, they always take the body and mind separate from things outwards. So sometimes I wonder why they don't think about like the I could be like the body, for example, or the body and mind together with the outside world.
Why the body wouldn't be together with the outside world?
Why couldn't you define the I as the complete environment plus your body
everything.
and mind?
I think most people think of the person, they say, I'm hurting, like my stomach hurts, or I have a headache, or somebody hits you, and we always reference the body, or we reference the mind, like I'm feeling so depressed, I'm so angry. But we don't usually reference the outside environment, like if you smash this cup, I don't feel any pain, things like that. So in general, I'd say they don't do that. They talk about the self. The word self actually does mean that in Prasangika, in the highest view, it means the lack of inherent existence of self and phenomena. But they like to break it up. The emptiness of them is the same, but they like to break it up. And the reason is partly from a practice viewpoint, is because when you go car shopping and you look at a car and it has a big long scratch on it, it doesn't bother you very much. But when you buy that car and you bring it home and it's mine and somebody scratches that, it really bothers you. And so this is, this thing about things that are the body, the mind, or mine, the body or the mind, or the mind, M-I-N-E, those things are the things that are more palpable to us. And those are the things that essentially we try to realize the emptiness first of the person and then of phenomena. They say it's easier.
And then the emptiness of the person also implies that mine also is gone.
Mine.
Mine is also-
M-I-N-E or M-I-N-D?
Yeah.
Which?
Sorry?
M-I-N-E or M-I-N-D? Mind? Like
M-I-N-E. Yeah.
mine, yeah.
Mine, yeah.
Yes, that's included in that.
So if you...
It's not, yeah, it's included in that, in the
Yeah.
emptiness of the person, as I understand it. Because it's so connected, it's like you're the owner of the thing, so it still comes back to the
Yeah, that's
person
why
very
I was-
strongly.
That's why I find it strange in the reasoning that they explicitly look for the I inside the mind or the body, and not including clothes, for example. Because if my clothes are torn, I'm
Yeah,
affected by the fact that my
yeah,
clothes
we
will
are.
be-
We are affected
Yeah.
by the things around us if they're mine.
Yeah. Okay.
But if they're not mine, we're not as affected.
No, that's
And so
right.
mine is included there, not as the object, but as the possessor of the object. It's more like the possessor of the
Yeah.
object is the self, the
So
person.
then-
That's how it's kind of explained as best as I can do.
yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I was just listening to the last teaching that Geshe Dado did yesterday from when he was here. And he talks about mine, not being
M-I-N-E.
M-I-N-E, not being meaning the object, but the sense of possession.
Right. That's what I was just
Yeah.
saying. Thank you. That's good. Glad we got that one right. Okay, now we'll go on to mutually inclusive. So here the answer in the debate is the two, P and Q, are mutually inclusive. So that's the two circles superimposed, right? The lower picture. Okay, for two phenomena to be mutually inclusive, the two must be different existent phenomena, just as it is with all the comparisons. He said this a number of times because we can't compare two things that are exactly the same. They have to be different. In addition, in the case of mutually inclusive phenomena, the relative boundaries of pervasion or the extensions of the two completely overlap. The extension of P is precisely equivalent to the extension of Q. Whatever is a P is necessarily a Q. Whatever is a Q is necessarily a P. Thus, they range over or pervade exactly the same things. Their equality is represented by the two circles being combined into one. One circle is superimposed over the other circle of equal size. So that's easy to understand. Everybody get that? Okay. So in this comparison, the two are just different names for the same thing. Okay, so this is a part that gets, I think, I hope to clarify a little bit, because when you just read this stuff on your own, as I did, some of this was quite confusing, and in the course of the evening, I'm hoping to clarify some of these terms, which is what will happen in this book later on, but it's not that hard. I would have liked to have understood this from the beginning, but it took a while to get because of the language problems and whatever. So it comes down to this thing there. Okay, in this comparison, the two are just different names for the same thing. The same thing, he's using the term loosely there. The Sanskrit and Tibetan terms translated here as mutually exclusive, ikarta and dongjig, literally mean the same meaning. There is the term for something, there's the sound that represents that thing, and then there's the reference or the meaning of that term. And so that's important to get this. Let me go on to the next little part. Mutually inclusive phenomena are different only in the sense of not having, mutually inclusive phenomena are different only in the sense of not having exactly the same name. For their meanings, the objects, this is the important, meaning here means the object. When we hear the word meaning, we think of that as being like, there's like the definition, which kind of works in a way when you get to this philosophical language, but actually it's the object itself. So that's important to remember. The objects that are included within the extension of each are exactly the same. So that's the thing. Try to keep that in mind. So we say, if we talk about this cup, there's the term for this, cup. There's the sound of me saying cup. And then there's the reference or the meaning. They're calling this thing a meaning. That's good to remember because I don't think of this as a meaning. I think of this as an object. But the word meaning actually is referring to the object. Okay. Okay, we're going to kind of keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. First, Matt. Oh, sorry.
So back to this meaning of the cup thing. The cup without being referred to would be the object, and then the thing that attaches your reference to it, like saying cup out loud. That saying cup, that's the noise. But then the thing
noise
that
cup?
attaches the cup and the object is the meaning. The sound
It
of the cup.
attaches the cup,
The sound of the cup.
the sound of the cup, and
That object, which isn't a
no,
cup
the
yet.
meaning is the thing. The meaning is this.
So what is the object?
The object is this. This is an object, and it's also the
So aren't you
meaning.
saying that the meaning and the object are mutually inclusive?
I'm saying they're the same thing. But it's not the term. The term is a different thing. There's the term, the word cup, the term cup. There's this thing, and then there's the sound, cup. There's three things there. There's the term cup. Remember like the example they did, hombre and man. The hombre and man as terms are mutually exclusive. As phenomena, they're mutually inclusive. The terms are different from the meaning of the terms. That's where it works. But the meaning of the terms is the phenomena. It's the man, it's you. Hombre, Matt, and man, Matt. Hombre and man are terms representing you. And when I say them, they're just sounds. So there's three things there.
So I had one bit, I don't know if it's been answered, it probably has, but so the meaning of that cup and the object of that cup are mutually inclusive?
The meaning of that, the meaning and the object. Yeah, meaning and object are talking about the same thing.
All right.
They're talking about the same thing. That's what I'm trying to get clear. Because they actually, it says it right in, well, this is part in debate, there's this part where they explain, oh no, this was in this book, although I crossed it out. Back in the part about mutually exclusive, it said, don't think of the two principles that are mutually exclusive as just contradictory terms. It's possible to compare the terms, but that's not the intent here. For instance, the term man and the term hombre are mutually exclusive. But they mean the same thing. Hombre is the Spanish term for man. The definition is the meaning or actual object. This is from our book. The definiendum is the name. That's as much as they get into definition definiendum, but that will come up later. We're going to keep it simple, stupid, tonight. But that's important. The definition is the meaning or the actual object. That's straight from the book, from the mutually exclusive part. You get that? Okay, and then you had a question. So that was a hard thing for me to understand for a long time when I read the debate book. Like, what are they talking about here? Because the word meaning, it sounds right sometimes and it sounds wrong sometimes.
Maybe this is going too far, but
That's okay.
Does time matter? Like, as far as would it change this from being mutually inclusive if I was to say like 10-year-old Ryan and 36-year-old Ryan? Or like, 5-year-old cup or 10-year-old cup? Like, does time change?
How would you compare the two? How do the two 5-year-old Ryan and 30-year-old Ryan compare? Are they exactly
That's what I'm saying. No, they're definitely not exactly the same, I guess, but it's the same thing.
There's a continuum.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, this is the thing. Like, I read this recently this week when I had that whole. You had the question about cause of dukkha and result of dukkha. I found this in the. I didn't copy it out for this. I wanted to keep it easier, but they are mutually exclusive, as are those two. But they are related causally. There's still a relationship, but they are mutually exclusive. Yeah, and as are those two. Yeah. Okay, so back up. We tend to think of, let's see, did I skip something? I don't think so. Okay, we'll go back. Mutually inclusive phenomena are different only in the sense of not having exactly the same name. For their meanings, the objects that are included within the extension of each are exactly the same. We tend to think of the sameness of two things that are alike. When it comes to naturally produced things, we can imagine there's a little bit of difference between this apple on the left and that one on the right. We naturally do that. We think of them as pretty different. But when you come to manufactured products, we think they're almost indistinguishable. Like, although when I buy lumber, I'm pretty careful, I have to say. I like straight lumber, you know. Yeah, you have to check. Okay, so however, although they're basically all the same, like one bottle of Coca-Cola, another bottle of Coca-Cola, they're basically all the same. And choosing one is the same as the other. But actually, each bottle of Omnicore Cola is different and mutually exclusive from all the others. Look at the two bottles of Omnicore Cola or any other products that look alike and understand that they are different. And there is nothing that is both of them. So that kind of goes against the grain of how we think a lot of times. So that's why he's pointing this out. I got really I really was trying to figure this out when we were studying this some years ago. Like, I was looking at the water bowls and I was like, are they one? Are they, it's like, because you have to know what all the terms mean, but, this is quite clear. Two trees are mutually exclusive. There's not any one water bowl that's the same as the water bowl next to it. So even though two mutually exclusive phenomena are just different names for the same thing, it would be a mistake to think of them as synonyms. Again, just as above, noting that the two phenomena are mutually exclusive is not the same as saying that they're contradictory terms. So like that thing of hombre and man, those are different terms, and the terms are mutually exclusive. The phenomena, hombre and man, are mutually inclusive because they're just different names for the same thing. But the words are not at all the same, and thus the words are mutually exclusive. There's nothing that is both the term man and hombre. So mutually exclusive phenomena may or may not be contradictory terms. You get that? The phenomena themselves may or may not be contradictory terms. So then we go back to what it says above. Again, just as above, noting that two phenomena are mutually exclusive is not the same as saying that they are contradictory terms. In the same way, noting that two phenomena are mutually inclusive is not the same as saying that they are synonyms. And this is a mistake that I hear a lot. Because what we're talking about here is the phenomena, not the terms. And this error was brought to Daniel Purdue's attention first by George Dreyfus. He was the first Westerner to become a geshe. He's Swiss, and he teaches in the U.S. Geshe Samge Sandrup was his ordination name, although he didn't stay ordained. He advised Daniel Purdue that it's not correct to describe these comparisons as mutually inclusives or synonyms, or mutually exclusives or contradictories. And that's what he did in the first debate book. So everyone had, you'll see a lot of confusion about that when you read stuff. But synonyms are not the same as mutually inclusive, and contradictory terms are not the same as mutually exclusive, because you're comparing phenomena versus terms. Everybody get the point? That's helpful because you won't always read it that way. But now we know. Okay, so I'll continue to read. For instance, the comparison below used to exemplify mutually inclusive phenomena is impermanent phenomena and functioning things. Mutually inclusive, right? Of course, the term impermanent phenomena and the term functioning things are synonyms, but in this process of the comparison of phenomena, the terms are mutually exclusive, for the terms are different existents, TS. There is nothing that is both the term impermanent phenomena and the term functioning thing. So get that? The terms, the two phenomena, impermanent phenomena and functioning things as phenomena, are mutually inclusive, the lower circle. But the terms themselves are the top. Functioning thing and impermanent phenomena, you'll never find one term that is both, because they're different terms. So they are mutually exclusive. Yeah.
I don't get why mutually inclusive terms are not synonyms.
Because mutually inclusive terms, they could be. Mutually inclusive terms could be synonyms. But mutually
they're not
inclusive
necessarily.
phenomena, well, let's see, hold it. Mutually inclusive terms. No, actually, I guess they can't be, now that I think about it. Let me think. Well, find an example. You have to find an example. Like those two mutually inclusive terms. I don't think
Okay,
it can
ugly
have,
and
mutually
unattractive.
inclusive have to, say that again?
Ugly and unattractive. Their meaning is the
Yeah,
same.
the meaning is the same, but the terms are different. So
Right,
the terms are
that's a
mutually
synonym.
exclusive, and they are synonyms,
But
but they're not mutually inclusive terms.
But what did you say about something not necessarily being a synonym?
The contradictory ones is what he said that about. And, let's see. Okay, he says one thing, noting that two phenomena that are mutually inclusive is not the same thing as saying that they're synonyms. That's one thing. But he also said that, let me find it, that he said that things that are things that are mutually exclusive could or could not be contradictory terms. You would find examples of things that are mutually exclusive that actually might, like we have one right now. Mutually exclusive terms would include functional thing and impermanent, right? Mutually exclusive term would also include permanent and impermanent. Impermanent and permanent are mutually exclusive phenomena also. So you can find an example of a phenomena that's mutually exclusive that are also mutually exclusive or inclusive terms, it looks like. We could probably figure out some examples. I wouldn't want to take the time right now. It's just different permutations.
What was it about synonyms? There was something.
What a lot of people do is they think that things that are mutually inclusive, they use the word synonyms. They'll say functioning thing and impermanent phenomena are synonyms. And they'll say that meaning they're mutually inclusive. But functioning thing and impermanent phenomena, they are mutually inclusive and they happen to be synonyms. But there's other things that are mutually inclusive that probably aren't synonyms.
That is the definition of a synonym. Is
Synonym
they have the
relates
same
to the
meaning.
term, not the phenomena. I don't think I'm making that very clear. Synonyms relate to terms. And so if you're going to talk about things that are mutually exclusive or mutually inclusive, you have to use the word the term.
Well, a synonym is a term. It's
Right.
a name.
But the term doesn't, sometimes we're talking about the word cup, and sometimes we're talking about the cup. So it's quite clear. I think maybe I'm making it confusing. Just read the book again. It's really quite clear in there. It's not hard to understand. I don't think I can explain it any better. I could read it again for you if you'd like. Yeah.
Okay, just cut me off if this is more confusing. But when we talk about impermanent phenomena and functioning things, they have different definitions.
Right,
Right?
they have different definitions.
Yeah, so we might be looking at the same object they're helping us look at the same object from different angles. So even though the members of those classes are the same,
Right.
they are not synonymous in the sense of having the same definition.
Synonyms refers to the terms. See, this is the problem here. Like the terms for impermanent phenomena and functioning thing, those terms are synonyms. But the terms are mutually exclusive also, the terms. But the phenomena are mutually inclusive. Yeah. So then when you talk about, like, for example, it's easier for me to use the board. What you're saying is, trying to say is like, all these things that are both functioning things and impermanent phenomena, all those things are inside these same the two circles. And if I call it a functioning thing, I describe it, if the term, the definiendum is functioning thing. And then the definition is that which is able to perform a function. That's the meaning or the definition. So the definitum is the term, the word for it, functioning thing. The definition is that which is able to perform a function. Those happen to be all the same as impermanent phenomena, which have a different definition, which is something like able to be produced or something. I don't have that memorized. Yeah, it's phenomena that are probably momentary and blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
I actually think Venerable Damcho's answer is getting at why you would make that distinction, because synonym has to deal with a meaning, but here we're talking about categories of objects.
Terms.
Sorry?
Well, okay, you're probably right. Synonym has to do with meaning. Okay,
Right.
let me hear you out.
But here we're talking about categories of objects, and mutually inclusive.
Meanings
refers to
are the
objects.
objects. Meanings are the objects. Synonyms have to do with definiendums, I think.
Well, in this instance, we're going to split that. Meaning does not mean object in this sense. To explain why you wouldn't say that mutually inclusive terms are not necessarily synonyms.
Okay, explain it full again, because I don't know how not to have the both be the same in this
Venerable
system.
Damcho, she said it quite well. Maybe she's willing to repeat what she said.
I think it's just maybe how we understand the word meaning in English.
Yes,
and
this
how
is the
it's being
problem. This
used
is what
in
I'm
this
saying.
context.
This
Yeah.
is the problem.
Yeah,
The
you know,
word
when we-
meaning is really, we switch back and forth, and it's completely confusing.
When we say meaning in English, we're talking about the definition of a term, right?
Right.
So
Yes, we are. The
synonyms-
definition of a term.
Synonyms have the same definitions,
Right.
right?
A
But
definition as terms.
Yes, as terms. But
Right.
here, in this case, these two words that have mutually inclusive phenomena have totally
definitions-
different definitions.
Yeah, the definitions are different, and they refer to the same phenomena.
Yeah, and those phenomena have qualities of both classes, right? Is it,
Right.
We're talking
they
about,
share qualities, right. That's why they're mutually inclusive.
and that's what we're trying to understand.
Right. So that word meaning is really tricky. Oh, I'm good. I'm glad we're getting how we bring out how the trickiness of it, because this is hard. So we have to, if we switch back and forth using that word, I think we'll drive ourselves crazy. We have to kind of use it the way it's used in the text.
I think it is about the phenomena rather than the terms, though. That's what it says.
What is about?
There's a sentence on page 61. It says, it is about the phenomena rather than the terms.
Just read the whole sentence, though, because I'm not sure what you're referring to.
Well, that is the whole
What is
sentence,
it?
but he's talking about the reason that you're not using the term synonyms and contradictories.
Yeah, because what we're comparing are
because it makes
phenomena.
you think that it brings you back to the term. And I think when you say, like, you say functioning thing and impermanent thing are
Mutually inclusive.
mutually
We're
inclusive.
talking about the phenomena.
If you wanted to talk about the term, I think you would have to say term twice here. You would have to
Right,
say
yeah, the term functioning
the
thing.
term
and
functioning thing and the term
Yes.
impermanent phenomena.
Yes, you would.
And it's about, even if they were,
Then they are,
Even if
that is the phenomena. The
right, but
term-
even if two terms had the same definition in an English context and were synonyms, we're still
Comparing
talking about phenomena.
Right, exactly. That's it. That's the answer. And so the term functioning thing is a phenomena also. Right? It's an existent. There's the term functioning thing. There's the phenomena that we're comparing. Yay, we got it. I think we got that one. Does everybody understand that? Somebody were sitting here. Okay, the bottom line is we're not comparing terms. We're comparing phenomena. And sometimes those phenomena happen to be the term for something. But we're actually comparing the phenomena, not the terms. Yay, we did it. Okay, it's good I don't have a clock. Oh, I do. Okay. Okay, now where were we? Okay, it's about the phenomena, not the terms. Yep, I already said that. Okay, for instance, that's right where we are in the text. It's about the phenomena rather than the terms. This error was brought, da 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 da. That's the footnote. For instance, the comparison below used to exemplify mutually inclusive phenomena is impermanent phenomena and functioning things, which I already did. We did that. I think we get that. I'll read it again, just for review. Of course, the term impermanent phenomena and the term functioning things are synonyms. But in this process of the comparison of phenomena, the terms are mutually exclusive, for the terms are different existents. There is nothing that is both the term impermanent phenomena and the term functioning things. Again, the comparison of phenomena is more like a consideration of class inclusion. That's really important. He repeats this again and again, than a consideration of just the words. This is where we get really mixed up here. And this is really helpful in this book that he makes this really clear, because when you read the other book, it's really confusing. The point is that each and every thing has the quality of being an impermanent phenomena. The point is that each and every thing that has the quality of being an impermanent phenomena is also a functioning thing, and that each and every functioning thing is also an impermanent phenomena. So it's class inclusion. All those little dots in there, right? Remember that the school of a debate is called the school of definitions or a school of qualities, for they are trying to sort out just what does exist and how it exists. Again, there are two cases here, one for which there is something that is neither of the two phenomena, so there's something outside of that box for some cases, and one for which there's nothing that's neither. And although these two cases are noted separately in the system of debate, or they're not noted separately in this system of debate, they are debated and proved in the same way. So they basically don't bother in this system to say the two are mutually exclusive and there's nothing that's neither. They don't bother. Because when you do the proof, it all comes out the same way. Same thing for mutually inclusive. Did everybody get that? Remember when we did comparing 3 phenomena and 4 phenomena? There were 2 choices. How many, let's see, how does the question go? How do the 2 compare? There are 3 possibilities with nothing that is neither or something that is neither. There are 4 possibilities with something that is neither or nothing that is neither. Although they don't bother with the something that is neither. They just say nothing that is neither. So they make 2 separate cases for each of those. For the mutually inclusive and the mutually exclusive, they don't bother, even though they do exist. Because they don't really come out, it doesn't end up, I think, mattering. The proof takes care of it. So impermanent phenomena and functioning things range over exactly the same phenomena. Anything that is one of them is also a common locus of both of them. That is, whatever is an impermanent phenomena is necessarily a functioning thing, and whatever is a functioning thing is necessarily an impermanent phenomena. See how he's very careful with that? He doesn't say, whatever is impermanent is also functioning. He says, whatever is an impermanent phenomena is necessarily a functioning thing. He's very careful with the language. That's where we get mixed up. That's where I've had trouble with the subjects and the words to use. So let's see. I kind of went over this already, that the impermanent phenomena split into 3: form or matter, consciousness, and abstract composites. Now we're going to do exercise 4.6. In the first one, the narrative is how do the 2 compare? P and Q compare, and these are going to be mutually inclusive. And the first one that we go over is existence and phenomena. Okay, on our chart here, we have existence up there, and then we have phenomena. So I looked this up for us, because that's why I'm sitting up here. I did the homework first. You're going to do it later, or maybe you already did it. So in the original debate book, they have this chart, and it shows the definiendum, or the name of the thing, and then the definition, loosely that thing, what it is. So existent is the definiendum, or the name, existent. That was what we're comparing, existent up there. Its definition is observed by a valid cognizer. And phenomena, its definition is that which holds its own entity. Okay, so the definiendum, or the name, is existent, and the definition of that, which loosely I say that which is, that's why I like to say it, that which is is that which is observed by a valid cognizer. It works for all of these to say it that way. That's my own wording. It's kind of loose. Okay, and phenomena is the name, the definiendum, the name, and it's that which holds its own entity. So those two actually are in this chart of things that are mutually inclusive. Like all these names, all these definiendum, established base, which is the same as existence, like this one right here. Let's just go up here. This word right here, you could also includes the same things as established base, object of knowledge, existent, phenomena, object of comprehension, object of comprehension of an omniscient consciousness, and hidden phenomena. When you understand the definitions of all those, they're all the same. They all are in the same circle. So let's have two people do this one now that we already know the answer, but let's go through it so we get the narrative, which is exercise 4.6, existence and phenomena. There's one. There's two. You want to start? One of you?
How do the two existence and phenomena compare?
The two existence and phenomena are mutually inclusive.
It follows that existence and phenomena are not mutually inclusive. Wouldn't that mean that everything that is an existent is also a phenomena?
Yes.
Give an example of something that is both existence and a phenomena.
Existent and existent.
And existent and phenomena.
There is something. The subject. The teacher.
Are you saying that the subject, a teacher, is an existent?
Yes.
Are you saying that the subject, the teacher, is also a phenomena?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do matter and form. So I've already kind of told you that. Let's see. Oh, I wanted to explain one thing from last week, and then we'll do that one. Okay. Venerable Seppo has got a lot of stuff memorized, and it's amazing. I do not. That's my weak point, and I'm working on it. So one thing is when we did this last time, right on the spot, she was able to pull this stuff out of her head, which I certainly couldn't do. And we were breaking down what form is, and I'll just shorten it. There were the 5 sense powers. I'm using more familiar words to us. She used some that are also fine. And then there are the 5 objects, or sense objects, I would say. And then we also had this non-revelatory form. And then, so there were 5 of these, 5 of these, and 1 of these. So the thing is that this book that we're studying is in the system of the Sutra school, or Satantrika. There's 4 tenet schools that they have in Tibetan Buddhism. They arrange it this way for us to learn. The very first one of the 4 and the very fourth, the first and the fourth, say that non-revelatory form is form. So they would say for how many things, if you were to split up matter or form, how many are there? 11 for both the Vaibhashika and the Prasangika. I don't know about the autonomy school. I think it might just be Prasangika. I might have it on here. But in the Sutra school, it's just that non-revelatory form isn't. So there's just 10. Form splits out into 10. So it's like this. Vasubandhu, his book, The Treasury of Knowledge, is where the Abhidharmakosha is where a lot of these terms come from. That's a Vaibhashika, written from the Vaibhashika point of view. And he says, forms are the 5 sense powers, the 5 objects, and non-revelatory forms only. The basis of the consciousness of these types, the eye sense and so forth are forms. Visible forms are of 2 or 20 types. Sounds are of 8 types. Tastes are of 6 types. Odors are of 4 types. Tangible objects are just 11. So it's only the first part that we're going to talk about tonight. So Vasubandhu, in this great exposition school or Vaibhashika text, writes that there are 11. And so does the Prasangika, because they both call this non-revelatory form actual form. But the Satantric school doesn't. So here's where the funny thing is, like, form, the definition of form is that which is suitable to be form. And actually, it's funny, I found this in the debate book. In a sutra, the Buddha said, monks, it is called the appropriated aggregate of form because it exists as form and is suitable as form. So I think they got it from a sutra, which is funny. I think that's funny. So anyway, in the system that we're studying, the proponents of sutra, form, which is in Sanskrit rupa, or how do you say it? Zug? G-Z-U-G-S? Zuk or rupa is form, and matter is bimpo or kantha in Sanskrit. So those are mutually inclusive. So we define form as that which is suitable as form. And so it's really just a description, something that's appealing to our ordinary experience. And matter is defined as that which is anatomically established. So that's what those mean. So, okay, let's do this one. We have matter and form. Yeah. Could you put that up so
Closer.
people
Yeah, I
can
remember
hear you?
reading something by Venerable that the non-revelatory form, or what's the
Non-revelatory form.
non-revelatory form are forms for the mental consciousness.
Right, that's another term for it. Venerable Seppo mentioned that last week.
How would the forms for mental consciousness be matter?
Well, they're considered matter. It's hard. I couldn't explain that, but they're described that way both in the Prasangika school and the Vaibhashika school. And what they say is, like, I can't explain it better than this, neither can Venerable Chodron, because she's asked all her teachers this, and we've asked her this a million times. And the answer is always kind of the same. When you're taking, one of the situations where a non-revelatory form happens, we call it also the precept body. When we take a vow, when we take vows, like when we take our monastic ordination, it's a big deal that you concentrate at the moment where you're receiving the ordination, the vow itself. You're receiving the precept body. In the Prasangika view, that's a non-revelatory form that is a form. And so you're usually crouched down maybe in that position, and they'll say it's some subtle form that is in that shape. And that's the best answer you'll probably ever get. So we're moving on to the next thing. Here we go. We've done this. Been there, done this. There's no... Keep reading. You might find something. Okay, who wants to debate it? We going to have two debaters? Does everybody have the narrative? Okay. Are we bored? Is this one too easy? Because I got a lot of material. I can keep going. I don't mind going on. I want to get through a lot. We'll be here all night. Right, I'm going.
So how do the two, matter and form, compare?
The two, matter and form, are mutually inclusive.
It follows that matter and form are not mutually inclusive. Won't that mean that everything that is a matter is also a form?
Yes.
Give an example of something that is both a matter and a form.
There is something, the subject, a book.
Are you saying that the subject, a book, is a form?
Yes.
Is a matter?
Yes.
Are you saying that the subject, a book, is a form?
Yes.
Very good. That's it. Okay, onward we go. Okay, so we explained that. So in the Sutra school, I do have a little more on this though. Let's see, what does it say? Non-revelatory form in the Treasury of Knowledge, so the Vaibhashika school, where there are 11 types of form. It's also called a form for the mental consciousness, as we've already said, and Venerable Seppo said last week, which is not any of the other 5 external forms and is an object apprehended only by the mental consciousness. In the system of the Sutra school following reasoning, actually it's the Sutra school following reasoning, because probably the Sutra school following scripture is the same as the Great Exposition school in most things. So the Sutra school following reasoning, the non-revelatory form or form for the mental consciousness is asserted, so they assert this, but they say not as a fully qualified form. So he says in the debate book, it's probably included in the non-associated compositional factors or abstract composites. Why? Because it's impermanent and it's neither a consciousness nor a form. So that means in the Sutra school there's 10 types of form. And then Jangya we read about, he has a good thing. He says, those who assert non-revelatory form as fully qualified form are definitely the two proponents of great exposition and consequentialists, or Vaibhashika and Sautantrika. Then I remember, or Vaibhashika and Prasanga. Then I remembered it when I read that. I forgot about this completely until I read that quote. Now it comes back. When we studied the Tenets book that we went through with Jeffrey, we ran across this. Okay, so now let's do the last one, and I'll explain a little bit first, because, well, let's do one more. 2 + 2 and 4. Do we have 2 people that will do that one?
How do the 2 + 2 and 4 compare?
The 2 + 2 and 4 are mutually inclusive.
It follows that 2 + 2 and 4 are not mutually inclusive. Wouldn't that mean that everything that is a 2 + 2 is also a 4?
Yes.
Give an example of something that is both a 2 + 2 and a 4.
There is something. The subject, the number 4.
Are you saying that the subject in number 4 is a 2 + 2?
Yes.
Are you saying that the subject, the number 4, is a 4?
Yes.
Okay. We're going to keep it simple and move on to the next one, because I find that one problematic. Yeah, I do, but I want to talk about it first. Phenomena and that which holds its own entity. That's the last one. So remember that the footnote says, the definition of phenomena is that which holds its own entity. And every definition and its definiendum, the handy name we call that thing by, are mutually inclusive. Mutually inclusive. Okay. So it's referring to the phenomena. Yeah, the phenomena, not the words. Okay. So in debate, that was from our textbook. In debate, it says, first of all, a particular definition or characterizer and its definiendum, or that characterized, are mutually inclusive. In this system, mutually inclusive has 2 components. First, the things mutually inclusive must be phenomena which are different. That is, they must be existents which are not exactly the same in both name and meaning. Obviously, any 2 mutually inclusive phenomena must be different in name, but their meaning, all the phenomena which they include, or those things to which their names can properly refer, must be just the same. The second is that the mutually inclusive phenomena must be mutually pervasive. One is necessarily the other. Both of these requirements of mutually inclusive phenomena for any particular definition, both of these requirements of mutually inclusive phenomena obtain or apply for any particular definition and its definiendum. I think that's the important point there, the particular one. This part is screwy. Let's give an example, because I think this is a part of this stuff that's hard, and so I'm just this is from the debate book. The first thing they teach you about are colors, and they teach this to 5-year-olds and 12-year-olds, and we like to skip it, but it's really better not to skip it, because to understand what the heck they're talking about, it's easier to use colors. So, for instance, in the first chapter, the presentation of colors, the definition of color is that which is suitable as a hue. Color and that which is suitable as a hue are different. They are existents, which are not exactly the same in both name and meaning. They have the same meaning in that they both include or refer to the same phenomena. So color and that which is suitable as a hue refer to the same phenomena. But they're different, they have different names. They're designated by different terms. Also, for color and that which is suitable as a hue, whatever is one is necessarily the other. They have a relationship of equivalence in the sense that they are mutually pervasive. The definition of color is an appeal to obvious experience. A color is anything which is suitable to be shown or pointed out to an eye consciousness as a hue. The collected topics logicians do not have or need anything further to say at this point. It is a tenet of this system that all reasoning eventually meets back to obvious experience. One cannot give reasons endlessly. Beyond positing the meaning of color as that which is suitable as a hue, one can only appeal to ordinary experience. A person without the experience of that which is suitable as a hue will temporarily have to be taught in other ways, like somebody who's blind, right? So these are, I find, to be kind of important points. So in this system, the definition is the actual object, and the definitum is the name designated to that object. The definition is not a mere description, but the object itself. For the sake of convenience, we designate that which is suitable as a hue with the name color. So that's what we're trying to understand, definition, tonight. That's our goal, to know that we have to be careful around that. Okay, so let's do that one. That which is phenomena and that which holds its own entity. How do the two phenomena and that which holds its own entity compare?
The two phenomena and that which holds its own entity are mutually inclusive.
It follows that phenomena and that which holds its own entity are not mutually inclusive. Wouldn't that mean that everything that is a phenomena is also that which holds its own entity?
Yes.
Give an example of something which is both a phenomena and that which holds its own entity.
There is something in the subject, this table you are using.
Are you saying that the subject, this table that I'm using, is a phenomena?
Yes.
Are you saying that this subject, the table I'm using, is that which holds its own entity?
Yes.
Okay.
What does that mean?
That's
Well, that which holds its own
well,
entity.
that's what it means. Entity. That's a hard one to explain. One with itself. Yeah, I think that might work. We'll have to look up entity. It's not. It has some synonyms. Like I think I've heard it as nature, entity, and essence. Those three sometimes come together. Okay, let's see. Now they want it to make up some things that we don't know what the heck they are. And I think that's what these are. How do these two compare? Okay, I want to do the ones about the solar system because we did the numbers once already. Okay, let's do the stars in our solar system and the stars in the Milky Way. I actually didn't know what these things were, so I had to look them up tonight. I'll tell you what they are before we start, because the solar system is actually 8 or 9 planets. 8 if you don't count Pluto, 9 if you do. Pluto now isn't a planet anymore, so now it's really 8. They call Pluto a dwarf planet now, because it's so small. It's a dwarf planet orbits the sun like other planets, but it's smaller, so it's not a planet anymore. They decided that in 2006. I read that online. I did my homework. So the solar system is the collection of these 8 planets and their moons in an orbit around the sun, together with smaller bodies in the form of asteroids, meteoroids, and comets. But no stars. The solar system does not include stars. Well, who knew? I didn't. And then we're comparing the stars in our solar system with the stars in the Milky Way. Okay.
What's the Milky Way?
Okay, the Milky Way is the galaxy in which the sun and the solar system are a part, in which contains the myriad of stars that create the light of the Milky Way. I had to look that up too. I wish Venerable Soltram was here. She loves astronomy. I like little stuff. She likes big stuff. How do the two compare? Stars, the stars in our solar system and the stars in the Milky Way.
There are three possibilities between. Yeah, there are. Because Sol is the star in our solar system. We call it the sun. It's a star.
The sun is a star?
Yeah, its name is Sol.
They didn't tell me that.
Yeah. That's why it's the
yeah.
solar system. Another star system would not be the solar system. It would be named after its own star. Our star is called Sol. S-O-L.
Sol? S-O-L. Oh, that's the Spanish word for sun.
Latin.
Yeah.
It doesn't. She was wrong about
Oh,
that.
oh,
It includes
hey,
the
no,
sun
no,
and the planets that
I
go
didn't just
around
say
it.
planets. I said our solar system, because that's what we're comparing. Stars in our solar system. Our solar system is a collection of 8 planets and their moons in orbit around the sun. So it includes the sun. I forgot the sun was a star.
The sun is.
Sorry. Well, I don't think about this stuff. I just look at it and get tan, and I know I like watching the constellations. I don't name them. I don't think about them. It's just what's out there to me. Now, what they're made of, that's more interesting to me. And the physiology, I'm all over that. But geology, I don't know anything.
Should we start over?
Okay, 3 possibilities. It follows that there are not 3 possibilities. Name something that's both. The stars in our solar system, stars in our solar system. How does that change it? And the stars in the Milky Way.
Well, you'd say stars in our solar system. A star.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty. The question is stars in our solar system.
That's the class, right? And as long as there's one member.
Yeah, I think so. That's the class. Yeah, that's right. He's doing
So
plural.
if you were to ask for an
Thank you.
example, you would not say it plural.
So, yeah, but she's right. The generality is stars, and he's saying it in plural. Okay, so give an example of something that's both the stars in our solar system and the stars in the Milky Way.
There is something, the subject, the star Sol, which we call the sun.
Very good. Give an example of something that's. Oh, now which way does the pervasion go? Page.
Every star, a star in our stars in our solar system are necessarily stars in the Milky Way, but stars in the Milky Way are not necessarily stars in our solar system.
Okay.
What is
Good.
that, page 46 or something?
Yeah, I need the page. I'm not good at this. I can think it through, but I wouldn't use the exact words. And I want to learn it. Okay.
Yeah, there's page 46.
Give an example of something that is a stars in our solar system, but not stars in the Milky Way. P and Q. Sorry, I did it wrong. Give an example of something that is a star in the Milky Way, but not a star in our solar system.
There is something, the subject, the star Sirius.
Yeah.
But you know what? I don't know if Sirius is in the Milky Way or not. I was trying to figure out which of our stars are in the Milky Way.
Can we see beyond the Milky Way with our naked eye? We can? How far can we see? Really? When I look out at night, I'm seeing different galaxies? I've never even seen the Northern Lights.
But Sirius is the brightest star, and I'm
pick
assuming
the
that's
northern
close.
star. Yeah, that would be an example. Because the way the pervasion.
I'm going to pick Sirius.
That is. Well, it's better to pick more better ones, but it does look like this, doesn't it? It's like, okay, this is too many things. So that's only got one, our sun, Sol, and this has got all the others. So do you think the North Star is in there?
I don't know. I picked Sirius because it's the brightest, meaning probably pretty close.
Oh, okay. Okay, hold on. Having technical difficulties.
No, that's
Give an example of something that's neither a star in our solar system or a star in the Milky Way, or stars in the Milky Way.
There is something, the subject, the planet Earth.
Very good. Okay, I made it through that one. I don't know anything about this. Okay, we did that. Did you know planets in our solar system versus rocky planets in our solar system? I never knew this. I might have learned this in third grade, but I haven't really thought about it since. The first four of our planets, Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars, are called rocky or terrestrial planets, and the outer four, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune, are gas or Jovian planets. So those two, the planets in our solar system, which has all of those, and the rocky ones, means that there's three possibilities with nothing that's neither, except for maybe Pluto, but we're not calling Pluto a planet now. It's a dwarf planet, which is not a planet. Okay, and then the satellites of the Earth and the natural satellites of the Earth. Did you know what a natural satellite is? It's any celestial body in space that orbits around a larger body. Moons are called natural satellites, and the only one that the Earth has is the moon. That's the only natural satellite, and there's thousands of other satellites, fake ones. It's time to quit, or artificial.
With the previous example, you said there's nothing that is neither except maybe Pluto. The bell on the table is neither. I mean, you're using that term wrong.
Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, you're right. Let me think about that again. We were doing stars. Yeah, you're right. Because let me think of that through for a second. Something that is neither. Yeah, everything else. Okay, yeah. Sometimes my mind makes this. I only have these things to choose from, like what's in the circles. So that's where my mind goes. So I think we should probably stop. It's about that time. But we're on the part where they start going into the comments. And that actually is quite helpful to what we've been doing. Now that we've done some of these, it would be good to read that. And then that's probably, Venerable wanted us to complete the chapter, but there's a lot there, and hopefully she'll go over it. And there wasn't really anything that I added to this. I just highlighted some things for myself. Like, for instance, the principles being compared are collective entities. That's an interesting thing. You can think about that. Like, what is that collective entity? I've asked Geshe about this and read about this. It's good to think about what that collective entity is. Like when you're talking about tables, comparing tables and chairs, what is tables? Can you sit on that? The collective entity tables? Really? No, the collective entity tables. If you're comparing all tables and all chairs, can you sit on that collective entity table? Right. So what is it if it's not something you can sit on? Good luck. That's one question I'm leaving you with. And then the other thing is, just to finish, I wanted to go back to when we were talking about, what do we call it? Uncomposed space? What's the word we use for it? Uncompounded space. Yeah, I've spent some time looking at that because I've been reading this one book that gets into this stuff in a lot of detail, and I read through every part about that. And the example they use is the space inside of a cup. And then your reply was, but what about the molecules that in it? So uncompounded space, is that what we call it? Wait. Yeah, you think it is. When I say the space inside of a cup, you think it's compounded space. But it's actually referring to uncompounded space. And here's why. This is the thing that's hard about this, and I learned a lot about this in reading this. Let's talk about it this way. We have compounded space and we have uncompounded space, or uncaused space and caused space. Caused or compounded space is impermanent, and it would include those molecules and things like that. And if there was like smoke in the air, you would see that smoke. I don't know, can you see uncompounded space? Can you actually see it? They don't talk about that at all, but it is a made up of molecules and this and that. We're breathing the air, the space, in that sense. They don't talk about that very much. It's the other one they talk about the most. And that other one, the uncompounded or uncaused, that's a permanent phenomena. So when they use the word space for it a lot of times, and they don't differentiate. Oftentimes they do, but oftentimes they don't. So in this example in the book I'm using, they talk about the space inside of this bowl. And they're referring to uncompounded space. You actually don't see that at all, because you don't, it's not something that you do with your senses. It's a permanent phenomenon. It's something, it's a thought. It's something that you construct by thought. It's just the absence of obstructive contact, right? The definition of uncompounded space is the absence or lack of obstructive contact. It's actually something that is a permanent, in this system, Satantrika, it's a permanent phenomena, probably isn't all of them, but I'm only talking from that book, which is going into that. And so that's something that you know through thought, a meaning generality. It's not something that you see. So when you say, but how about the molecules? Because that's where our mind naturally goes. So things that are permanent phenomena have parts. So there's the part of uncompounded space that's outside of this bowl, and there's this part I can describe with a thought. With a thought, I can do that. What's outside of the bowl and what's inside of the bowl. The uncompounded space outside of the bowl, the uncompounded space inside of the bowl. So when they use the example of in this bowl or in a cup, the reason it throws us off is because our mind goes to what we're seeing. And then we think about molecules and they're changing moment by moment. But in the example that they're giving, they're definitely referring to uncaused or uncompounded space. And the reason they give that example partly is to help you see that, and this part throws me a little bit, is, well, if you think of it as a thought, then the whole thing works, because the thought about the uncompounded space inside of this bowl, if the bowl wasn't here, I wouldn't have the thought. It's dependent on having the bowl there, right? So but you don't see it. It's something that you could know maybe more implicitly, but it's a thought, so it comes as a meaning generality, which is permanent. And why do they even bother with all of this? Because there's a debate about all of this. This is what I like about this book I'm reading, which I couldn't understand at all when I read it a while back. I didn't think I read very much of it, but this time I'm wading through it. The reason why they have a debate about this, and why do they bother with this, because this example of uncompounded space comes up all the time. It's because one of the reasons is that it's an example where they're trying to show that permanent phenomena exist. Because there's a debate, like in other systems outside of Galupa, and even in India, and even a lot of Western scholars would say that existence divides, they would say permanent phenomena or non-existence. They don't actually describe everything that is in existence is an impermanent phenomena for them, for some schools of thought. Even you'll hear that even in, I think, in some of the Tibetan Buddhist traditions, the way they use these terms, non-existence, what they're referring to and what we're referring to is different. Same with the word permanent. So back in the time of Dignaga, they didn't actually use the thing about functioning things. That came about by the time of Dharmakirti. So then they started explaining all this stuff in a different way. So the reason why they care is because the nature of reality is a permanent phenomena. And they want to show that it's an existent. And so that's why we always get these things about uncompounded space. Because it's something that we can wrap our mind around easier. Does that make any sense to anybody? I think they don't, you don't find it in there. I think they're just talking about this space. The one thing I did find was sometimes they use the word space for like the elements, earth, water, fire, and all that. And then they described it as like the space inside of your nostrils. And it was a physical space. So they don't actually, and the stuff I looked at, I didn't have all kinds of time, but I looked in my dictionary and there wasn't much there that helped, although I could look again. But the book I've been reading, there was like nothing. Yeah, so I don't know. I haven't seen a definition of that, but there's probably one. But anyway, it's important for us to understand.
Breaking news, April 2017.
Oh, they reached Pluto's now, planet again.
It's a planet.
Back in the planet club. Okay, we have 9 planets. 9 planets in our solar system. Okay, so anyway, that was interesting because it made me think a lot. I had to respond to your question. So I had to figure out, it was helpful to me to understand that I'm not seeing that. The lack of obstructive contact is a non-affirming negation. You're not seeing it. That's the basic thing that I think will help me to go forward with that. And then we'll close after your comment.
Also, the molecules wouldn't be part of the space. The space is a negation that allows the molecules to be there.
Actually, you can't, it's funny, this is an interesting point because I think there's different schools of thought. In the book I'm reading, it calls uncompounded space an affirming negation, and they call it a mental exclusion. But we always have learned about it as a non-affirming negation, which means it doesn't imply anything. So if I don't know, there's some question I want to ask somebody like Geshe Topke. So you can't exactly say that unless you're affirming something in its place. Because a non-affirming negation doesn't affirm anything in its place.
Right. Both Jeffrey and Geshe Dado have said that it's the space that allows something to exist. So
No. They said that, but that example was refuted in the book I read.
Oh,
they're describing it in a way for us to understand it. But actually, I'll have to find that part again because it came up in this book. And yes, I remember Jeffrey saying that it allows our hand to move, but that didn't quite work. I'll have to find that again because it was no, the way they're actually describing this, that was more implicit than explicit or something. It was different. Yeah, it was described that way, and it's helpful to understand what it is. But I think that would have to make it an affirming negation. Maybe is the problem there.
Oh,
which they do in this book, but they still shot that down actually.
Oh.
This book called Knowledge and Liberation by Anne Klein. It's a real slow read.
Because with looking at it as something that...
But it's actually quite excellent.
If you look at it as something that allows an object to exist, it would even include...
Allows an object to exist? That's not the definition.
What he was saying, it's the space, the uncompounded space, the unobstructed space that something can be in. It's a lack of obstruction, so something can be there.
Yeah, see, that makes an affirming negation.
That would include the space that the planet exists in, not the space around the planet.
Yeah, it does. It is. It does include that, but it doesn't. But
so it could
to say that you're switching it. That's the thing where I think
which is odd because then it's obstructed by the planet. The same with your hand.
The unobstructed space is everywhere, and that's it. And it does happen to allow the thing to be there, but they can't say it functions because it's a permanent thing. So it's not functioning in the sense of creating something. It's not creating that space or producing that space.
And what kind of obstruction would it be free of?
It's just the lack of obstruction. That's all it is. It's a straight negation. The lack of obstructibility, period. And it's a concept. So that's the part that's I think the part that helps me is to realize this is a thought. This is not something that you see. And to me, this really helps me to understand this better. It's a mental concept. It's a conceptual concept.
What's Anne's book?
knowledge and liberation. It's kind of helpful if you can get through it. It's slow though. Yeah.
Oh, and yeah, it's only the Vaibhashikas who say that it's a space that allows
Yes.
something to perform a
Yeah,
function.
because they use the word function in a different way, right? And so that's why I want to ask them why they. You see, because back in Vaibhashika, they don't have any non-affirming negations. They can't deal with a lot of the phenomena that we take as being existence. And so they only have affirming negations in Vaibhashika. So that's kind of a problem there, like to explain certain things. But yeah, there was that meaning of function. So say that again, just to make it clear again. Is it?
No, just clarify. I don't know if that's the context of when Jeffrey was teaching, right? In the Vaibhashika school, it says the lack of obstructing. I'm reading Cutting Through
Yeah,
Appearances.
right.
The lack of obstructing contact that space affords performs the function of allowing movement to take place.
Right.
And it's only the Vaibhashikas
Only
who
Vaibhashikas
assert
say
this.
that, right. And that's because they're using the word function in a different way than it is in the other schools, where it's always about production. It's always about causes and conditions coming together to, make things.
But then they're denying that it's impermanent by saying it's a functional thing. Isn't that why that definition is different than the other schools?
They're denying that it's impermanent.
Because it's a functioning thing. They say, oh, even space, uncompounded space is a functioning thing because it.
Oh, I don't know the context. I'd have to read the whole thing to see.
That's what I thought we talked about when we went over.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember. They do have a difficulty with certain kinds of phenomena there. At least, I don't know. Do they have permanent and impermanent phenomena? I think they do. So, but they don't have non-affirming negations. So you run into problems there. Okay. Good job, everybody. Thank you. They are asserting a permanent functioning thing.
Yeah, so that's why.
Oh, functioning in that sense.
Yeah, so like the whole
yeah.
chapter in Aryadeva, wasn't it? That was refuting.
Yeah,
the
but that was a
existence
different
of,
meaning of
different?
functioning, though. Aryadeva, Aryadeva was refuting functioning in the sense of production.
I see.
And that is the whole thing in Aryadeva, big time.
Okay.
Permanent
Go back
things,
to-
permanent meaning phenomena that are non-momentary, cannot create anything. They can't function in the sense of producing. And that's the big thing you get from that book. And then you just realize that so many things can't work. It doesn't work. And that a lot of the systems that they're refuting are based on that. Okay. Good job, everybody. That was fun. Okay. Let's think about all the people who have been having difficulties of any kind in hospitals, in earthquakes, in hurricanes, in whatever, in Las Vegas, all over the world, your neighbors, your family, and dedicate our merit to them to become free of every suffering, and may we become fully awakened to do that.